What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the War Room, episode 5, where we are previewing the NFC South. Maybe not the most glamorous division in football, but they will be hosting a playoff game come January, and wasn't a very glamorous division last year. But the Panthers gave gave the Rams somehow everything everything that they wanted, and the Rams had to squeak by there. So, if you haven't tuned in before, I use my model going through each game or each team in the division. Going to break down playoff odds, division odds, win totals, all of that. Kind of my outlook for each team on the season. So, yeah, if you haven't checked out the videos prior, go ahead and check those out. Follow the channels, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. But let's get into it without wasting any more time. Let's start with those Carolina Panthers, the defending division champions. Their win total right now over at FanDuel, 7.5, under -140. The 6.5 is over -140, so we're looking at right around 7 for their win total. My numbers, much lower than that. It's not looking great for the Panthers as we head into this season. I got them under 7. I got them about 6.7. I like what they did in the offseason. I do. I think that they made some good moves. I think they're a sound team in that regard. But at the end of the day, I still don't think this is a very talented roster in its current state. They've already had a handful of injuries kind of pile up here in the early going of training camp. But I did enjoy the Rasheed Walker signing. I did enjoy the Jalen Phillips signing. I did enjoy the Devin Lloyd sign. So kind of, they're making good moves, but I don't know if they're there yet from an offensive standpoint. Chris Brazell just went down with an injury. He's going to be out for the year. But the main reason of why I don't like this roster, if we look through it, or why I don't like their win total per se, is the schedule is not great. It's only an average schedule in terms of respect to the whole league, but they get the NFC North, they get the AFC North. So again, not a lot of easy games in either of those divisions, the Browns really being the only one there. And because they won the NFC South last year, they have to go to Philadelphia. They have to host Seattle. That's at the end of the year, week 17. So right now, as it stands, I only got them favored in 3 games. A bunch of other ones that are closer to coin flips. But they got to play Denver. They got to host Denver. So just not a lot of easy games. They do have the Bears at home to start off. That'd be a pretty big swing game for them. But look, you got to go home against the Bears, at Atlanta, at Cleveland, home against Detroit, at Philly, home against Tampa, at Green Bay, with likely Parsons back, home against Denver, at New Orleans, home against Baltimore, at Tampa Bay, at Minnesota. Where are the wins here, guys? There's no. This team's not good enough. But like every game is a pretty rough stretch for them, in my opinion, though, of where there's really no stretch where it's like, hey, they can get 3-4 wins here. So I do think the under is pretty pretty solid here. I think they get to 7 wins, about a coin flip. Getting to 8, I think that should be. I would price the under 7.5 here at about like -160 or so. So yeah, I can't get involved there. The offense, Bryce Young, I just don't know what he is yet. I still don't think he's great. Ike Ekwonu, they're going to throw Monroe Freeling possibly in there because Taylor Moton has an injury, a non-football injury that he's dealing with. So Rasheed Walker, they have pieces. Damian Lewis, Robert Hunt, they paid. Rasheed Walker, I think, is a good value deal. But if Monroe Freeling's not able to go, and step right in and be pretty sound, then I think the offensive line can get some problems. And then They really need a big year out of Derek Brown on the defensive line. They really need Jalen Phillips to stay healthy. But the front seven, if those guys are able to stay healthy, there's some hope for them. But overall, as good as Ted McMillan was last year, and as high as I am on him as a whole, Jonathan Brooks, running back, had some injury issues. Chuba Hubbard's not a guy that I'm exactly, giving glowing recommendations to. But going back to the quarterback position, I don't know if Bryce Young is the quarterback of the future of the Panthers. I don't trust him. I think he's solid enough to fool a team into possibly give him a long-term contract, but you're not winning very much with Bryce Young as your quarterback. So, like I said, under 7.5, I do think there's a little bit of value there. The over 6.5, I don't quite have value there. Like I said, it's about a coin flip for me for the Panthers. So go up to the division odds here. NFC South, they are, despite winning it last year, the third most likely team to win a division here, coming in about 24%. That's too rich. I have it about 18. I like the other teams better. I think Tampa, as much as I think Baker, maybe there's issues. We'll see what they do with Vita Vea. I think better quarterback in Tampa. I don't know for sure in New Orleans. But two other teams probably have a better offensive ecosystem or better quarterback. And I don't know if the Panthers defense is there either. Nick Skoughton, haven't brought him up. Edge rusher, torn ACL. They couldn't generate pressure last year. That would have been a nice fit next to Jalen Phillips. But again, injuries have kind of bogged them down a little bit, and I just can't get there on this division price. Make the playoffs. Let's see here, plus 230. I can tell you right now, before even looking at my number, no thank you on that. That's about 30%. I got them down at like 24. So, again, not a team that I'm really rushing to bet here. Super Bowl odds, 80 to 1. I'm trying to think of a number that I would want to really grab here on the Panthers. It's not. It's not anywhere close to that. I don't see they don't have the depth. They don't have the weapons. The roster's still not there. Honestly, the Panthers probably need a little bit of a rebuild. They don't have the quarterback, in my opinion, to win a Super Bowl. I don't think they have enough talent around. They're building towards it. If Monroe Freeling works out, that's great. I think the Jalen Phillips, Devin Lloyd, they made some good pieces, but I think they're kind of, as weird as it say that a reigning division champion needs a rebuild, I think that's the case for Carolina. Next on the board, we'll switch to Tampa. Tampa's been kind of the mainstay of the division over the last, it seems like a decade. I could be wrong about how long ago that's going back here, but under 8.5 minus 140, kind of a similar thing here. Over 7.5 is minus 140 for Tampa. I have it at 7.8. I'm right around that number as well. So I think that's a pretty fair price from FanDuel here in the betting market. Now, I have to have a huge asterisk here is Baker Mayfield is, I don't want to say unhappy, but he's not getting a deal right now. He's been pretty vocal about that, and he's not too happy about that. Vita Vea has requested a trade. I think this is the transition year for the Bucs to where I don't know if they are ready to continue on being the team that always kind of is in the hunt for this division. I think Baker Mayfield might be on the downswing. You talk about injury issues. Emeka Egbuka was good, but Chris Godwin's getting up there in age, and he has age issues. Mike Evans is gone. They do, offensive line-wise, definitely the tackles. They're pretty set, which kind of makes things tough, but they probably need to kind of flip the roster a little bit. Because if you look at like Reuben Bain, I thought it was a pretty good value pick for them in the draft. But again, a rookie, and Kalijah Cansey, okay, and what else are you really getting out of that defense from a pass rush standpoint, especially if Vita Vea is gone, and his just ability to clog up the middle, get after the passer as a true nose tackle, but also just absolutely be a force in the run game. So they lost Jamel Dean as well. I think that's a big loss. They got Antoine Winfield, but like the back seven is not great for me either. So it's just this is going to kind of be the theme of this division because I think every team is kind of meh to bad. I just don't know where there's a lot of wins on this roster. And so, like I said, I have them at 7.8. I have them higher than the Panthers. You look at this guy. They'd start with at Cincy. They do get Cleveland. You know, with they have the AFC North. They have the NFC North and AFC North. But they got to go to Dallas. They have to play the Chargers at home. You know, that's an improved team. And they got to play the Rams. So those are tough games when you're talking about already playing the NFC North and AFC North that doesn't have a lot of easy games. And I with the way that their schedule is, again, it grades out as an average schedule. It's more of that there's just not a lot of bad teams on the schedule. There's not too many elite teams, I'd say. But Baker Mayfield, the age of this roster, the holes that it has, it's kind of like they got start like Baker's okay. The tackles are good. Abuka, maybe he can turn into a star wide receiver. Defensive side of the ball, I don't know if they have it. Take Vita Vea off this roster, and I really, really don't want to be involved. So under 8.5 at minus 140, I think is pretty fair. I maybe have a slight edge there. At the 7.5, I think this could be a bottom falling out. That's where I'm more interested at the under 7.5. I would kind of look that way. I'd rather go that point. In my opinion, just because I think there's a world where Baker gets hurt. He always kind of has. For him to be good, he has to kind of play that wild style of football. You talk about it. If he goes down, Jake Browning is their backup. Like nothing's good's coming out of that. So again, I just don't know if they have a solid wide receiver room. Bucky Irvin, solid piece. I'm just getting bad vibes from this team. My numbers don't have too big of an edge anywhere. A little bit on the under the win totals, but I think the bottom could fall out on this team. And even Todd Bowles, might be someone that is in the conversation for first coach fired. I think it is possible, just because of how much of a hole this roster has, how many holes this roster has, and then on top of it, you add in that the division is poor again, and it's possible. I think that's where I think that's easily in the realm of possibilities for the Bucs. And then you factor in at Cincy. Now they have home against Cleveland, home against Minnesota, home against Green Bay, at Dallas, home against Pittsburgh. A lot of home games early, and if they're not able to win, if they drop one of, if they beat Cleveland, but if they're not able to grab the Minnesota game, because I think they'll be slight favorites in that game, they're not able to grab the Steelers game. Again, they'll be slight favorites. A lot of coin flips to start for them, and I think you run the risk of this team getting off to a bad start. So going up to the division odds here, they are the favorite right now. At plus 195, I got them at 29%. So nothing there for me. You go to the playoff market, 140. I got them at 37%. I don't see it with this team. I can't get involved. I'd be looking for the no on a few of these if the price is right there. So Super Bowl odds, kind of another crazy 50-1. No, thank you. I'd put that. I'd have to get this number closer to 100-1 if we're being honest. They just do not have the pieces. Nobody in this division does, in my mind. But they don't have the pieces. I think they're being priced on reputation of what they've been the last few years, in my opinion. I think this could be the year that we kind of pull the plug on this era of the Tampa Bay Bucks. Next on the list here, we got the New Orleans Saints. I'm saving the Falcons for last. But they're an interesting team. Just again, interesting division here. But the Saints here over 7.5 minus 120. Under is at plus 100. This is probably the team, in my opinion, that has the highest upside. I wasn't really buying into Tyler Shuck's, awesome rookie year last year. I think if you went back and actually looked at it, it wasn't as good as what people made it out to be. But I'm a huge Kellen Moore fan. If Tyler Shuck does take a step forward, in his development, pairing him with Kellen Moore, if Chris Olave stays healthy, Jordan Tyson, if he can hit the ground running as a top wide receiver prospect coming out of the draft, all of a sudden things are kind of, forming on offense. The offensive line was much improved last year under Kellen Moore. I think you could see. I think you could see this being a formidable offense. The issue, though, is Chris Olave has injury concerns with concussions. Jordan Tyson has injury concerns. He hasn't really been able to stay healthy at all during his football career. And then I look at the defense. Brian Brzee already gone for the year. That's a tough loss. Chase Young, I think it's all, but he's never really hit his potential where he was coming out of college. And then you look at the back seven, and I'm just like, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Quincy Riley, Jonas Sanker. I don't know where this team is either. Like, again, it's another team where they're like I said, they're probably the highest ceiling just because I think Tyler Shuck has the, we kind of know what Baker Mayfield is. We kind of know what Bryce Young is. Who knows what's going on with Atlanta, but Shuck probably has the highest ability to jump and progress as a quarterback in this division. But outside of that, and my trust, I don't love having to trust, like, hey, maybe this quarterback's okay or good. I don't think he's going to be great. As much as I love Kellen Moore, I look at the rest of the defense and the rest of the roster, really, and it's there, but there's a lot of, like, Cameron Jordan's getting up there in age. Like, Juwan Johnson's not going to know a fan. Like, Oscar Delp is interesting. They could do a lot of fun stuff with their tight ends, but this roster is just, it's, again, the whole division, nobody really excites me. And then you talk about they got to start at Detroit, at Baltimore to start the season. So those are two games right off the bat that are going to be hard to win. They do have Vegas, Atlanta, and Minnesota at home to follow that. Do have to go on the road to the Giants. But then it's like Pittsburgh, Cleveland, home against Carolina. So the schedule's not terrible for the first 10 games. I think if you're looking at it from a schedule standpoint, New Orleans is pretty easy. And when I say pretty easy, I have them as the second easiest schedule in football. So outside of those first two games, they do have to go to Chicago and to Cincinnati later in the year. But outside of those two, very winnable games on the schedule for them. Definitely if you get an improvement from Shuck. So don't love the roster. The way that I kind of think about this is I don't love betting on teams that it's like, oh, well, if the quarterback makes a jump and if the rest of the division's bad, and I like the quarterback or head coach, but I don't know where this team is, as a whole. That's what worries me a bit, and that's my concern with New Orleans as we head into the season here. So when we look at 7.5 on the win total, I like that at minus 120. Again, the schedule is very easy. I'm not saying this is going to be like Patriots-esque, but I think there is a world where the offense is able to go enough. It definitely, if Olave and Tyson are able to stay healthy, there is a world where they just kind of blow through it and play really well. So I again, as much as I don't want to like this team, the schedule, the coach really, really pays off for me. And I think getting the 8 wins is really not that difficult for them. And I'd even be inclined, like, over 8.5 at plus 145. I think that's a pretty solid alt there as well. So definitely, I don't want to say I'm buying on the Saints, but I'm buying in the Saints ecosystem and schedule for the 2026 season. plus 250 to win the division. Yeah, I mean, I think I like that. I make it at like 31%. I think that's fair. I think Tampa Bay and New Orleans should be much, like at the very least, much closer together. And again, I'm giving New Orleans is getting the schedule boost for me. In they play a much more favorable schedule than Tampa. So betting on the ceiling of Shuck, I guess. I think at plus 250, I think they're a solid bet for the division. It's going to be the theme here. Like them on the win total over. I like them on the division. As we go down the list here, playoff New Orleans here plus 180. Again, another number that I'm going to like here. I have this closer to 40%. So just all together, like my portfolio on the Panthers or Saints would be just to buy them and however you want it to go. I think they're live for the division, even if Shuck doesn't take a step forward, just because the rest of the division's not great. So yeah, that's just kind of where we are. And then you look at 80-1 to win the Super Bowl. I think that's priced pretty fairly. Not anything that I want to dive into. Don't have value on that number as I do with the playoffs and everything. But I think they're a solid bet to win the division. I do like some alt win totals. I like all their win totals pretty much. It's going to be an edge for me there. So I am, again, I don't know if I'm bullish on the Saints, but I am bullish on their environment, their ceiling, and most importantly, their schedule this year. They play a super easy schedule. If Shuck takes a step forward, if Chris Olave and Jordan Tyson are healthy, I think you could actually have a pretty fun offense. And I think you could probably have the best offense in the division by a good margin if things kind of work out there for them as we head into the season here. About a month out. We're almost there, folks. Last team, NFC South. Atlanta Falcons. They are at the bottom of the division. If you're still listening, thanks. I don't know why you're tuning in. You must be a Falcons fan. The Falcons are really hard for me to model right now, I will say, because I don't know what the state of their quarterback room is. Doesn't look like Michael Penix is going to be good to go for the season. That leaves it up to Tua Tagovailoa. Injury issues with both of those quarterbacks, obviously. You got Cooper Rush after that. I don't even know if Tua is ready to roll. Could be Cooper Rush. Just signed him, I think, not long ago. But Bijan Robinson, awesome. Drake London, awesome. Kyle Pitts, awesome. Offensive line, solid. Bad news though, coming on the defensive side of the ball. Jalen Walker torn ACL a couple days ago in camp. I don't really know what's going on with the James Pierce situation, but when you kind of factor in that they, were able to get after the passer last year, and that was kind of the strength of their defense, and you're taking away one of those weapons already, and you don't know what you're getting out of James Pierce or what his availability is going to be like, you're banking on AJ Terrell and Avion Terrell really kind of, getting that back seven right. And I just don't know if it's there. They weren't very good against the run last year. I don't know if I expect them to be good against the run this year. Again, another roster where I just don't know if it's put together yet. And there's too many holes. And while Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts is one of the better running back, wide receiver, tight end combos in the league, I think the quarterback situation is the worst in the division for the Falcons. So hard for me to get on board with them. Now, they do have an easiest schedule. I have them 24th hardest schedule right now in the NFL. Under 7.5 wins is minus 140. To get to 8, like I think that's pretty fairly priced. I got them like 44% to get to 8. So I think that's probably a decent price. I am not factoring in, just being completely honest, I am not factoring in, Cooper Rush at all or injury. I don't have any uncertainty baked in there yet. A little bit too early for me, so I'm not really touching this at all. But they're an under team for me right now. I think with the Jalen Walker injury, kind of further cements that with how their quarterback room is stacking up. Even though the weapons on offense are awesome, I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know if they're gonna have the ball enough because of the state of their defense. So no, nothing for me on the win total under 6.5 at plus 115. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far. It's really hard for me to get them involved, but this could be a bottoming out team. You look at the way that their schedule breaks out: at Pittsburgh, home against Carolina, at Green Bay, at New Orleans, home against Baltimore, home against Chicago, home against San Fran, at Tampa Bay, home against Cincy, home against Kansas City, at Minnesota, so home against Detroit. So the schedule kind of works out at the end. You do have Cleveland late. They do have to go to Washington. That's not an easy game by any means. But then they do home against Tampa, home against New Orleans, at Carolina. So they, 3 coin flips in a year where they could, in theory, be in the race if the division's bad. But again, I don't know how many games this team's favored and see what their quarterback situation, how that shapes up. This team could be bad. It could bottom could fall out. So kind of be looking at some alt unders there, depending on how the quarterback situation breaks out. Plus 330 to win the division. Can almost promise you I'm gonna have nothing here. Yeah, 22% for me. Again, I think I'm probably a little high on them because I'm not factoring in probably enough uncertainty with their quarterback room. We go over to their playoff odds. Plus 240. No thanks. I'm right on market there, 29%. I think that's a fair price. I think there's a world where the bottom drops out here, so I'd be looking for the other side of this. I'm not really running to the window to bet some overs here. Even if Tua's healthy, even if Penix Jr. is healthy, I don't know what they've shown, in the last year or two. And Penix in his career, but like Tua's a shell of what he used to be. He used to be super accurate, even though he wasn't, amazing or anything. I don't see it. I was talking about the Saints and the ceiling. I don't see the ceiling for the Falcons this year unless Penix is just, awesome. I don't see it. I know Stefanski, people are huge fans of Stefanski. I'm not the biggest fan of Stefanski. I think he was propped up by a very good defense for a lot of those years in Cleveland. I can't get on board with the Falcons this year. Super Bowl price, obviously it's going to be a no for me. 100 to 1. Yeah, I got him at like 0.8% here, so that's nothing for me as well. So probably my least favorite division, just because I don't think any of these teams are capable of winning the Super Bowl. The team that I like the most, the New Orleans Saints, I'm not super high on from a roster standpoint, but I think they do have the highest ceiling. I probably like their head coach the best. I'm a big Kellen Moore fan. But yeah, I think this division could be easily an 8-9 winner again, hosting a playoff game against, the Seahawks or the 49ers or whomever. Honestly, if you told me that the NFC South winner is 7-10 at the end of the year, that wouldn't shock me either. So that wraps up the NFC South preview. Hope you got some value out of that. It was not a fun one. But yeah, that's what, 5 down. We got 3 to go. We have the NFC West left. We have the AFC East left, and we have the AFC South left. So those are all 3 divisions that I think will be really fun to talk about as we head up just about a month out from the season here. So that's it for the NFC South preview on the War Room. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, comment below. Tell me whether I'm wrong on the Panthers, the Saints, the Falcons. Tell me why you like Tua's position with the Falcons because of the weapons. Tell me why you think the Panthers are going to go back to back. Tell me why you think the Bucs are not done. Why you think Baker's going to be able to pull them to a division title. And you know what? Tell me why you think the Saints aren't going to win a division. Happy to do that. Please do that in the comments. But yeah, that's it. Like and subscribe to the channel, please. And as always, next Thursday will be the next preview. We'll get one of the last 3 here as we head towards the season. So thank you so much for watching. Yeah, and until next time, enjoy the rest of your week.